Hi there, my name's Jesse. I'm talking to you from Somerset in the UK. And it's my pleasure to talk to you today about the two courses that we offer at Falmouth universities that can be studied exclusively online. I'm afraid you're going to lose my webcam and my face in a few minutes whilst I just transfer over and I talk you through the slide presentation. There is an opportunity though for to have a chat with me in a webinar, and that's going to be on Monday the 14th of December. That will be at 0800 hours GMT, which makes it 4 o'clock in the afternoon Singapore time, GMT plus 8. So I'd be really lovely if you do want to have a chat with me about the courses in a little bit more depth. Then I really look forward to chatting then. So I hope this goes through briskly and is informative. And please do get in touch if you've got any questions at all. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about our two online programs today. They're both quite different, but there are also similarities in the way that they're delivered. So I will be chopping between a discussion of both of these, and I hope it's not too confusing. I imagine there may be questions about the differences between the two programs, which is absolutely fine. So just before we kind of launch into that, it might be helpful just to get a bit of a sense of where I've come from in terms of all of this. I'm the course leader for both programs, and my background is in photography, obviously. I trained myself, had a BA undergraduate degree from the Surrey Institute of Art and Design and an MA from the University of Wales, MFA actually in documentary photography. For a long time, really, I've been writing for a number of publications. There's links to these magazines, which you can read features online via the hyperlinks. And in 2015, I published quite a substantial book around landscape photography. And throughout all of this, I've worked as a commercial photographer and also taught. So I still do a very little bit of commercial photography. Most of my work sort of is around architecture, place, construction, and my teaching practice has been at various different institutions, but with a kind of specialism in online delivery, which is how I ended up at Falmouth and leading these two online programs. I think it's really important to get a sense of who the faculty is at any institution you might be studying at. So please do take a look at my website if you're interested, and do get in touch as well. And on that note, we have a very broad team working on the MA and on the top up. So if you are seriously interested in the programme, it really is worth spending a bit of time looking at who the faculty are and getting a sense of what their interests in photography are, because that will inevitably inform the way that they teach the subjects that they teach as well. But we have a very broad team. This encompasses staff who work, some just work on the BA top-up, some just work on the MA, and others work on both programs. And so really it's quite a large team by any standards, really. And I think that is a real strength to what we can offer in terms of the breadth of our expertise and knowledge and interest, really, of course, in the different spheres of photography in different genre and so on and so forth. So I think a big question really is why study photography, and I think the sort of distinction that I would like to really highlight is in what makes an undergraduate or a postgraduate experience different from doing any other course or a workshop or some sort of program of study, and our kind of, you know, what we really dwell on, what we really explore is quality and criticality. So that really means photography that has a purpose, photography that is asking questions about subjects, about the world around us. It's not about being exceptional at a particular technique or craft or area of skill. It's about really using photography in very sophisticated, intelligent ways to ask questions about the world, basically. And a lot of people who come to the program are quite developed, really, as professional photographers, or kind of very serious non-professionals, but who have really dedicated a large chunk of their life to practicing photography, even if they've not been paid to do it. So in a lot of instances, people aren't coming to the program because they want to learn new skills. They want to use photography in more critical and intelligent ways, basically. And it really is this point here, the development of the sort of sophistication of your work that is really core. And also people really, what I think they get the most out of the MA is the network, is talking to other like-minded photographers, talking to faculty, talking to their tutor, and actually spending that year or 2 years just talking about photography, really, just enjoying it and just being completely immersed in the subject, really. And of course, both courses come with the qualification, and that's absolutely a huge string to your bow. It really is a great achievement, I think, to get either a BA in photography or an MA in photography. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of commitment. So I think having that qualification that really says that you have a very high level of expertise and understanding of the subject is really important. So what we like to see from applicants and in our students is really, whatever the level of skill or ability, what we really want is committed and ambitious photographers, really. Whether they're making money through photography or not, we're not really that bothered. It is really about people who are passionate about the subject and who are just really willing to participate, work with their peers, work with their tutor, share ideas, take on feedback, really push themselves out of their comfort zone, and try new things, really, and just really just really push their practice forward and get out of any sort of comfort zone that they might be in or have been in for some time. And we also kind of try to develop the sort of skills of independence and autonomy, and being able to sort of work on long-term projects with some support and guidance from peers, from your tutor and supervisor. But it's also about being able to sort of develop a kind of a major long-term project under one's own steam. And really, I think people who are committed to becoming professional contemporary practitioners. So this is a bit of a comparison of the two programs, and I hope this is quite a helpful way of visualizing it. The MA is obviously a postgraduate program, and the BA is an undergraduate program. The online program that Falmouth University offers is a top-up program. That means it is just the final year of an undergraduate degree. So in terms of the entry requirements, most applicants who apply for the top-up will have done 240 credits worth of a degree program, either in a degree elsewhere, a photography degree elsewhere. They might be finishing it on the top-up, doing that final year with us, or they might have done an HD, Higher National Diploma or a foundation degree in the subject. And sometimes people have done those qualifications 10, maybe even 20 years ago, and they enrolled on a program in photography in a further education college, and they've worked either in photography or in a different part of the industry, and they have always wanted to complete the degree basically, but they haven't got around to it, and so for a lot of people who apply to the top up and who complete the top up, it is about finishing something they started a long time ago. Not everybody who gets onto the top up program, the BA top up program, has the 240 credits. So if anybody has got quite extensive industry experience and they are able to demonstrate their ability to meet the learning outcomes of the first 2 years of our undergraduate program, then they can apply to the program through something called APEL, Accreditation of Prior Experiential Learning. It's quite a long-winded process, but it is available to people who do have really impressive industry experience, and who we can really recognise and sort of reward all of that hard work in industry with those first 2 years of a degree, and then they can come straight onto the top-up programme, basically. But in most cases, people will have done an HND or an FDA to get onto the top-up. The MA is slightly different. Most people have an undergraduate degree in either art, design, photography, the humanities. It could be not everybody has a photography undergraduate degree who comes onto the MA. Quite a number of people do, but really it's very broad in terms of who comes on to the MA, and it's quite a different application process compared to the BA top-up program, because it's much simpler. By applying to the top-up, we are and giving somebody a place, we are essentially awarding the first 2 years of a degree for free, basically. So the actual application process is quite different, the MA compared to the top-up. In all instances, we ask people to write a reflective statement, an applicant statement, which really talks about their experience, their interest, why they want to do the program, what they want to get out of the program, and a portfolio of practice, so we can really get a sense of your interests and your abilities. So that's common for the entry requirements of both. But typically people on the MA are quite experienced and fairly accomplished photographers. As I mentioned, our students on the top-up program, some of them are coming straight from college who've just finished the first 2 years of an HND course, and other people might have been out working in industry for 10, 20, even 30 years. So it's very broad scope and very sort of broad age range as well. And the MA is really even more diverse than that. But typically people will have an undergraduate degree, and will have had sort of quite extensive experience in industry, or really just have done a lot, demonstrated a very high level of commitment to photography. The kind of a big difference really as well is the length of the program. So the top up is just 1 year, and the MA is a 2-year course. Some people will also enroll on the PG DIP, the postgraduate diploma, which doesn't do the final module of the MA, and you will leave with a postgraduate diploma. It's a slightly cheaper course because you're not doing that final major project. So there's also that opportunity to sort of leave slightly earlier with that qualification if you decide that actually you don't want to do the full 2 years of the program. As I mentioned before, the delivery is entirely online of both programs, and we have students all over the world. The time commitment is slightly different. So the top-up does cram in a lot of work. It's 30. We reckon it is around 30 hours a week. So really, it's almost full time. It is quite intensive, quite full on. Students don't always spend 30 hours a week on the top-up program, but some weeks certainly that there will be that much work to do, particularly around the assignments. And the MA is slightly less work by comparison. But, it really depends on how much time our students have. And some do have more than others, and some will put in a lot more than 20 hours per week. There are a lot of opportunities to do things, to get involved. And when you're working on your project, you really are investing however much time in that you have. So that can really vary quite a lot. But the top-up program, because of the credits that we're awarding, it is a more intensive program. Both programs have 3 start points: September, January, and June. So there is kind of quite a lot of flexibility, and if people aren't able to make the application deadline for the first for one intake, then it's only really a few months before the program starts again. So there is quite a lot of flexibility there in terms of when you start, basically. And those are the fees down there. These are obviously in sterling, so I don't know how helpful that is for you at this point. But yeah, there is obviously that sort of price discrepancy between the two programs. But given that the MA is twice as long, that really explains that cost difference. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of information about the two courses and the different modules. So we have at the university and our online programs, we have 3 study blocks or terms or trimesters, basically. And that is quite different to a lot of institutions. So we have the study block 1 is September through to January, and then 2 is January through to May, and then 3 is June through to September. So there isn't any period apart from the sort of Christmas winter break and 2 weeks for Easter in the spring. There isn't any kind of long holiday, so it's quite intense. It's very intense to work on, trust me. So it is quite a kind of substantial feat, I think, to work through it all. So I'm just going to talk about the BA top up first. And just to say, currently the BA top up, whichever study block you start in September, January, or June, you will do these modules in this order. So the first module is really about orientating you to contemporary photography, and it's we set some short projects, and these build up in length, where you'll have the opportunity to sort of really try out some new ways of working, and working on some thematic projects. You will hand in a portfolio of practical work of your own photography at the end of the module, and also a critical research journal. So that will be where you kind of write every week. You do a short piece of writing about your learning, about the research that you've done, and about how you've developed your ideas and your photography. The second module is really about looking at the different spaces for professional contemporary photography, and looking at different ways of disseminating your photography. And in that module, you will work on a single practical project, which is really up to you in terms of what you want to do. And quite a lot of people will extend something that they've started working in the first module, in the first study block, and develop that a bit further. And at the end, the final module will just involve working on a single project, a single quite substantial body of work. And there is not a dissertation, there is a relatively short piece of writing that accompanies that, which really gives it some contextualization, basically. The MA is obviously stretches over 2 years, and there are five modules. So the first 4 modules just take up one single study block, And the first module, Positions and Practice, which is actually my module, I teach this module. Again, it's about orientating students to contemporary photography and starting to think about a single project or a single major area of concern that you will develop throughout the course of the MA, basically. So at the end of that module, students write a proposal which really talks about how they're going to develop their photography, and it sets out the sort of critical framework for the subject that they're looking at. The second module, Informing Contexts, well, actually, I should probably say that over the course of those 3 modules, after number 1, students really are just working away with their research project happening in the sort of foreground of their activity. So whatever your interests are, that's what you will be doing. You'll be out shooting projects around that, basically. We'll talk about projects in a little bit more depth in a second. But each of these 3 modules, Informing Context, Sustainable Strategies, and Collaboration and Professional Locations, looks at practice from particular perspectives. So Informing Context looks at it through critical contextualization. So what are the philosophical, the ethical, the political themes that relate to your practice, basically? Sustainable strategies is really about thinking about different ways of making work, using different processes, using different technologies, different equipment, and different methodologies of working, basically. But we're also thinking about that within the context of economic sustainability and environmental and ecological sustainability. So we'll also be asking you to think about how your particular choices, how sustainable those are, and how much your practice actually consumes. What is the impact of your creative practice, basically? And we'll be thinking about ways to reduce the impact of that. Collaboration and professional locations is similar to professional locations and development in the BA top-up. So again, we're thinking about the professional outlets and ways to disseminate work and get it out there to audiences worldwide. And throughout that, students work in a group as well on a live brief. So we have a number of different partners who we work with, and they will set a brief, and students will work in teams collaborating on a pitch, basically, to the client to get some feedback on that. Now, all of this really leads towards the final major project. And in most cases, people on the MA are working on a sort of single thematic project all the way through the course. And at the end of each module, they will be submitting a portfolio of practice, which is a kind of a break point in the creative process. And final major project is really about the resolution of that body of work, really. And in some instances, it's also students will be making a new body of work in final major project. So it can be a new thing, or it can be about finishing off and really kind of perfecting what's been taking place in the sort of year and a bit up to final major project, basically. Appreciate that's quite a lot of information to go in, and I'm sorry it's not a very inspiring slide, but I hope that kind of just really gives a bit of a sense of the journey of both programs. So the week is I'm just gonna very quickly nip over to show you this view, actually, to give you a sense of what it looks like, what our virtual learning environment looks like. So we use a platform called Canvas, which is very kind of widely used as an online platform. And each week we have a sort of homepage, and each sort of week generally unlocks weekly. And though we're experimenting with sort of different patterns of releases, and it's sort of typically composed of a number of sort of different themes. There'll be a sort of an introduction to the topic. It's some very embarrassing footage for myself there. And that will be followed by a discussion board. And that's to really sort of help you get a sense of the themes and get starting to think about what the topic's asking you to do. And then there'll be quite a substantial video. I'll just
practically endless still.
Just give a little
image libraries.
Skim through.
We might of course choose to show
still
moment.
There's
a fundamental.
There's a couple of those, and really some information about an office hour that I'm doing. And then usually at the end of the week, there is a webinar, either with your tutor or with peers. And that webinar is a really important part of the program that allows you to really sort of cement your understanding of that theme. But most importantly, it allows you to apply what we've been discussing and what you've been learning about. Allows you to apply that to your practice, basically. So in all of the webinars, you're bringing your work to the session and getting feedback and discussing your work in the context of what we've talked about in that week, basically. I'm just going to nip back now to my presentation. The forums are sort of really important parts of that as well. So if you can't kind of make the forum, then sorry, 2 seconds. The forums are quite important, particularly if you can't make it to a webinar. It allows you to really discuss those themes, and obviously, it goes on for a week or two. So whatever you've got going on, if you're working, you can just kind of chip into the forum and sort of see how that conversation is progressing, basically. A really important part of what we do as well is the guest lecture program. And guest lectures are delivered to the MA and the top-up simultaneously. So it's a really nice opportunity for both programs to come together. We have between 6 to 12 guest lectures per study block. So by comparison, I think to a lot of programs, that is a lot of guest lectures across a year. And these are archived and stored. So we have an enormous sort of archive of previous guest lectures which students have access to. So it's quite an important part of the offer, basically. Typically, we will be kind of we have photographers and artists talking about their practice, talking about their experience in the industry. But also we have curators, writers and editors and academics, designers as well. So people who are connected with the photography industry who aren't necessarily taking pictures, basically. So we try to give a really rounded impression of the industry, basically. This little pie chart here is just to kind of give a sense of your activity. And this is based upon the MA rather than the top-up, which looks slightly different because of the hour difference. But really, it's fairly, it's just very indicative. But what it sort of gives a sense of, I hope, is some of the range of the activities that people will be doing. And most importantly, what a large chunk of it your actual research project is. It really should be around 50% of your time and your activity will be developing your project. So again, this is sort of thinking slightly more about the MA, but it also applies to the top-up. But research projects are practice-based, so it is about, there is a lot of research, a lot of sort of traditional desk library-based research to do, But research to us means going out, taking pictures, accumulating material, reflecting on it, presenting it, and assimilating all of that information. So what we're really talking about is making a photographic project. And we'll talk about some places to sort of really get a sense of what students and graduates have done, both during the programme and sort of for their final projects as well. Some people arrive on the course already with quite a developed practice and some ideas about what they want to do, what they want to focus on. So that is, I'd say, about a third of the students come to the programme, for the MA programme, with a really clear idea of what they want to make a project about. But the other kind of 2/3, I think, of students don't have a very clear idea, and that's absolutely fine. So that's sort of partly what we spend, the first module thinking about, really, is reflecting on what you've done up to this point and really trying to understand what really is sort of motivating your photography and what you will find very fulfilling to sort of make a project about, basically. I've sort of banged on about it a little bit, but I think it's really important to say that the program is online. It's sort of a distance learning model, but it is still kind of quite a dynamic program, I think, and there are lots of opportunities to get involved and to develop your network, and that is a kind of what people who kind of make great students, frankly, are the ones who get involved, who are really keen and interested in talking with their peers and with us, with the faculty. And we have students who are very capable, who are very able, but who really just kind of get on with the program without really interacting with anybody else. And I think those are the kind of more disappointing students for us. So we really do hope that people will want to embrace these opportunities and to participate and get involved. And I think it really is sort of no exaggeration to say that, the course can become like a family, really. And there is an enormous amount of support that takes place between students and between different cohorts. And I think there is, a very kind of nice atmosphere, actually, particularly, when we do get to have sort of face-to-face events as well. So it's sort of slightly difficult to talk about face-to-face events. Obviously, we had our last one just before the UK was locked down in March 2020. So we don't have any plans for a physical face-to-face event yet, but rest assured there will be some in the future. But we are all on very uncertain territory at this point. So I can only really say about what we have done and what I hope we will do, what we will be doing again, really. But our sort of spring event in Falmouth is a series. It's a symposium, really. So we have a thematic based symposium where we will invite speakers to talk about themes. The faculty will talk. We also have presentations from MA final major project students, but there's also a lot of technical workshops, and we do have incredible facilities in Europe. I think they really are, at Falmouth, really are some of the best facilities of any education establishment in Europe. They're incredibly impressive. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to do some workshops, to make use of what we've got down there, to try out sort of new equipment and things, but also just to have a brilliant time and talk about photography, and just kind of enjoy ourselves. But other previous events, we've typically gone to photography festivals and photography fairs. So we've been to Paris Photo, which I'm sure you all know about. We've been there for a couple of years. We've been to Krakow in Poland. That's a fantastic festival. I'd really recommend it. It's a really lovely atmosphere. It's quite a small, intimate scale. Really kind of lovely people run it and organise it, and displays some incredible photography as well. And Unseen Amsterdam, again, it's a large fair, but with a series of really interesting talks, exhibitions, and opportunities. So we've been to Unseen a couple of times, and it's been absolutely great fun. So in terms of sort of more information and so on, I've got some links here. I'm also going to make a PDF of this presentation available. So these hyperlinks will sort of take you to where you want to go. But I would just kind of point out a couple of places. Do have a look at the Landings exhibition that happened over the summer. And that was sort of student work in progress exhibition. So that was mostly MA students, a couple of top-up students as well. But it's interesting because you get a sense of students' project in the middle of the program, at that sort of middle stage, really. So there's quite a lot to see there, and to see the students' work who's graduated this year on both the top up and the MA, and also on the university's other campus-based programs. Do have a look at the university's 2020 graduate showcase. If you want to get a bit more information about the structure of the courses, and the dates, the timelines, the fees, any information like that, and you would like to speak to somebody, then the best thing to do is to click on this link here, or give them a ring here. There's also another number that they will be able to talk via WhatsApp through. So that's all accessible from their website here, flexible.falmouth.ac.uk. And if anybody is thinking about applying for the course for January intake, it starts at the end of January, and the deadline to apply is the 11th of January. So if you're interested in that, do kind of have a think about that. Please also, if you are an Instagram user, do check out our account. Follow us if you'd like to see more examples of student work in progress as well as faculty work. And just a reminder, if you would like to talk more, please feel free to get in touch with me. But it would be great to see you along at the webinar on the 14th. So I'm going to wrap it up there. It's been great to be able to talk to you. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of the festival.